Hey everybody, it's Barbara Ann. Welcome back to my channel, Straight Out of Context. I am so happy that you are here. Today, we are going to deep dive into three of the earliest crimes of Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy or Puff Daddy. If you're interested, stick around and watch. I'm so glad you joined me today. The City College Stampede is a crowd crush event that took place on December 28th of 1991 at the City College of New York Gymnasium. This took place during a charity basketball game for HIV/AIDS, yet it ended up being a celebrity event headlined by hip-hop celebrities P. Diddy and Heavy D. Over 5,000 people tried to pack inside of the gymnasium, even though it only had a 2,730 person capacity. This is when P. Diddy made the decision to tell them to shut the doors. The doors at the bottom of the stairs opened inward into the lobby, not outward into the gymnasium. The doors were left closed for up to 15 minutes. As the crush worsened, 9 people were crushed to their death at the bottom of the staircase, while 29 others were severely injured. The 9 people that were killed were from various parts of New York City and surrounding areas. Jabal Rainey was 15 from Harlem, not far from the event. The other victims were Leonard Nelson Jr., 17 from the Bronx, Letitia Hurd, 19 from the Bronx, Sonia Williams, 20 from New Rochelle, Dawn McCain, 20 from Brooklyn, Yule Dargan, 24 from the Bronx, Sharice Ann Noel, 26 from Brooklyn, Darren Brown, 28 from the Bronx, and Dirk Swain, 20 from the Bronx. No criminal charges were filed following the incident, although multiple wrongful death and personal injury lawsuits were filed. Sonny Williams Jr. is the brother of Sonia Williams, who actually got her ticket from Sean Combs and was a very close friend of his. After dying in the crowd swell, her brother was brought into Sean's office, where he tried to pay him for his silence with only $50,000. Sonny Williams Jr. said, quote, "I remember looking around the office at all the plaques on the wall, and I just thought to myself, that's all she's worth? That's all a life is worth? You have all of this?" It was a slap in the face, unquote. Mike Tyson and LL Cool J were actually there at this event when all the people waiting with tickets in hand to get inside the gymnasium attempted to break through the double doors, and the massive crowd swell rushed towards the entrance, where the doors remained locked and closed for over 15 minutes, where 9 people lost their lives being crushed to death, and 30 others severely injured. Sean Combs never faced any charges at all for City College Stampede crowd crush event. P. Diddy had this to say about the Astroworld tragedy. If you're not familiar, on November 5th of 2021, Travis Scott was performing his tour, Astroworld, in Houston, Texas, where a massive crowd swell and surge ended up claiming the lives of 10 people, including a child, and severely injuring hundreds of others. Sean Combs said verbatim, quote, "I am uncanceling Travis Scott," unquote. Sean Combs even petitioned Billboard Music Awards on Travis Scott's behalf to allow Travis Scott to perform at the 2022 show. Despite facing many lawsuits, Travis Scott announced his plans to continue touring in August of 2023. Thanks in part to the power, the reach, and the connections of Sean Combs. This would be the first of many criminal acts by Sean Combs in the public and behind closed doors, and yet he persisted for many decades with little consequence. September 7th of 1996 at 11:15 p.m. when stopped at a red light at East Flamingo Road and Colville Lane. Rapper, actor, poet, and hip-hop legend Tupac Shakur would be struck 4 times by an unidentified assailant in a drive-by after leaving a boxing match where Mike Tyson was fighting on the Las Vegas Strip coming out of the MGM Grand Hotel. He was immediately rushed to University Medical Center, where he unfortunately passed away on September 13th of 1996, and it was reported that his last words while conscious was, quote, "fuck you," unquote. Driver Suge Knight was grazed during the drive-by but survived the incident. For 27 years, Orlando Anderson and Dwayne Keefe D. Davis were the only 2 suspects. Davis would go on to boast many times over the years, especially when he participated in a 2018 Netflix documentary about Tupac Shakur and releasing his own memoir in 2019, which actually helped catch him. Over 27 years later, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis would be arrested after he fully confessed that it was a retaliatory instigation. He's one of only 2 witnesses that were there that night that are alive today. However, Davis has made allegations against Sean Combs for more than 15 years, and he's documented it in his diary and his memoir. He was arrested and charged on September 29th of 2023, and his trial has been set and pushed back many times. It is now set for March 17th of 2025. One of Davis's most damning claims is that he was offered $1 million for the hit on Tupac Shakur by Sean Combs. As of today, Sean Combs has never been charged in any kind of connection to the death of Tupac Shakur. In the early hours of March 9th, 1997, rapper The Notorious B.I.G., aka Biggie or Biggie Smalls, would sadly lose his life after being struck 4 times in a drive-by in Los Angeles, California. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, where doctors tried to perform an emergency surgery, but he was sadly pronounced deceased at 1:15 a.m. He had been attending an after-party instead of traveling to London. Biggie was signed to Bad Boy Records, where he put out the albums Ready to Die and Life After Death. He single-handedly made Bad Boy Records on the map as far as rap and R&B labels. Biggie was only 24 and Tupac was only 25 years old. The East Coast versus West Coast hip-hop war inadvertently cost more than just 2 legends losing their lives before their time. It heavily implicated Sean Combs. April 6th of 1999, Nas and P. Diddy would put out a song they collaborated on entitled Hate Me Now. They shot the music video emulating each Jesus when he was crucified on the cross. After speaking with his mother and his pastor, Diddy decided that he did not like how he would be perceived in this version of the music video. MTV was accidentally sent the original music video, which depicts them being hung on the cross, emulating Jesus Christ. Diddy wanted the scene with him to be completely cut before it was given to run on MTV or VH1. Diddy did not want the world or anybody to know about that original version. And despite Nas receiving so much criticism over his scene in the music video, he then has this to say about it.
Fiction scene was an idea I had before I even had a record when I was 16. It was supposed to be my album cover when I was talking about that kind of stuff on Live at Barbecue. And Hate Me Now, when I thought about it, there was a play, and I think it was starring Blair Underwood in the city, where he played Jesus, and people were protesting, and I was like, wow, they're protesting a black man playing Jesus in this day and age. I even think the mayor at the time, Giuliani, had something negative to say, if I'm not mistaken, about the play, that he wasn't into it, and I felt like, okay, watch this.
Nas ended up keeping his original scene in the music video and including this statement at the beginning and the end of the music video, telling people that he believes in the Lord Jesus Christ and that this video is in no way a depiction or a portrayal of his life and death. And if you've never heard this song, then you wouldn't know that he literally says it's a thin line between paper and hate. Friends and snakes, 9 millis and 38s, hell or the pearly gates. And he goes on to talk about God and fate and destiny. 3 days after the release of Hate Me Now, Diddy and two of his bodyguards would end up going on April 9th of 1999 to the offices of Steve Stout, who was a record executive at Interscope Records at the time, and brutally physically attack him. Steve Stout said, quote, Combs and two of his bodyguards beat me with their fists, a telephone, a champagne bottle, and even a chair, unquote. On April 16th of 1999, a week later, Combs was arrested and charged with 2 felonies, second-degree assault and criminal mischief. In September of 1999, he would plead guilty to harassment, a lesser charge, and was sentenced to only 1 day of anger management. Steve Stout ended up suing Combs, settling for only $500,000 out of court. Steve Stout said, quote, if this kind of behavior is allowed to go unpenalized, it'll be an invitation for extortion in the music business, unquote. Steve Stout is the CEO of United Masters. He was a record executive at Interscope Records. He was executive vice president at Interscope Records and president of urban music at Sony Records from 1999 to 2009. In 2017, he founded United Masters, and he also in 2004 founded Translation, a music marketing agency. He's extremely well-known, beloved, and successful in the music business himself. In late 1999, we are already seeing a huge pattern of behavior here with Sean Combs. Not only is he getting away with very serious criminal felony behavior, but he's doing so with barely having to pay out any damages or suffering any real consequences. On the night of December 26th into the early hours of December 27th, 1999, Diddy was dating Jennifer Lopez. Diddy, Jennifer Lopez, his bodyguard Anthony Jones, aka Wolf, and Jamal Barrow, aka Shine, would end up going to Club New York in Manhattan. Shine was a very young rapper who was up and coming and was hanging out with Diddy to up his PR. At the club, in the VIP section, there would be just total chaos breakout. And this is when Sean Combs took out a weapon and pulled the trigger, hitting a woman in the face. Natania Rubin, who also goes by Natania Griffin today, has said, quote, I've spent 1/4 of a century with my integrity and my name in doubt. In light of the current atmosphere with all the lawsuits and the stories that have come out, I knew it was time for me to speak up, unquote. Wardell Fenderson, who was Diddy's driver in 1999, actually backs her story as he was an eyewitness and gave eyewitness testimony. He also says, quote, the past is the past and belongs in the past, but I can no longer remain silent. This is the first time I've ever shared my story on camera, but we have to do what's right and stand up for what's right in the world, unquote. Diddy tried to bribe him with a $300,000 diamond ring and a promise of paying him $50,000 if he would take ownership and claim ownership of the weapon that Diddy actually had and used. Wardell Fenderson was driving the car when they took off out of the club trying to flee, and they actually were in a chase with the police. But Wardell Fenderson gave up and it came to an end, which resulted in everybody being taken in and Diddy being arrested. Despite leading police officers on a chase, they ended up letting go Anthony Jones Wolf, the bodyguard, and Jennifer Lopez, but they took into custody Sean Combs and Shine. And this is where there's a lot of speculation and controversy because it was unfair that a young up-and-coming Rapper Shine ended up taking a lot of the blame and the brunt of what Diddy actually did. He and Jennifer Lopez very quickly split. However, it was said by everybody that that was a PR move anyways, because Jenny from the Block was trying to give herself street credit and make herself look more relatable to the hip hop and R&B community. Shine's family, aka Jamal Barrow, would be extremely upset because they trusted Diddy with their young son and to be a mentor to him. And instead, he ends up immediately getting into some kind of legal trouble, getting arrested, and that essentially ended his entire career. Natania Griffin, however, would go on to be mocked, ridiculed, and harassed for the next 25 years. She would be mocked on radio stations where they would call her a one-eyed bitch and play the sound of shots in the background. The hip-hop and R&B community would go on to blame Natania Griffin for trying to take down a good black man and to destroy hip-hop. To that, I would reply back that the culture failed her. They failed to protect her, to meet her with compassion. And nothing could destroy hip-hop more than Sean Combs himself did when he took part in ending the life of Tupac Shakur and the East Coast, West Coast hip-hop battle that ultimately claimed the life of one of his greatest assets, Biggie Smalls. Natania Griffin, then known as Natania Rubin, actually brought a civil suit against Sean Combs, which he settled out of court. And despite that, she still would go on to be hounded for over 25 years by radio stations, the hip-hop community, so bad that the FBI actually had to move her several times for her safety. People in unmarked all-black SUVs would stalk her and watch her apartment. But the unfortunate part is that on March 16th of 2001, Sean Combs would be acquitted at his trial. Jamal Barrow, aka Shine, who was then 21 years old, would go on to be found guilty on 5 different charges. And yet Sean Combs could not care less. In fact, he couldn't be happier that he was acquitted. He felt absolutely zero remorse or compassion for the young lives that he was supposed to mentor and take care of under his record label. Sean Combs would go on for many more years to suffer tremendous losses emotionally, like the unfortunate passing of Kim Porter, who was his longtime love and soulmate, and the mother to his children. And yet his love for her still was not enough to make him live a righteous moral life because of how he treated her. This is when Cassie Ventura would come into his life, and when all of this downfall of Sean Combs would come to a head, with former personal assistants, former personal chefs, and other employees would all file civil suits against him, trying to get a payday. Sean Combs is currently incarcerated in a federal jail in Brooklyn awaiting his trial, which is now set to be on May 5th of 2025. Now he is facing charges for racketeering, SA, human trafficking, but the other cases that are pending against him are civil litigations, one of which he settled the very next day by his ex, Cassie Ventura. And yes, she had every right and reason to sue him. And I hope she got paid immensely because of what she suffered at his hands for years. Diddy would settle with Cassie within 24 hours, but not before he would put a statement online basically calling her a liar and just looking for money. And then after the footage from the hotel of him being physically violent towards her surfaced, aka a security officer who was paid $50,000 to delete it, didn't, and released it. And good thing he did for Cassie, because it broke the whole thing wide open. Sean Combs would go to put up this, an apology, trying to make excuses for his behavior and failures as a man. His ego and his narcissism trying to gaslight society and the entire world and his fans into believing that this was just a simple mistake and not what it really was, which was very strategic, long-term, covert abuse of a spouse. In all honest terms, this is just blatant DV. And while the world is so quick with cancel culture to dispose of any human being who would act or behave in such a heinous way, can we separate the man from the art and the art from the artist? Or are they forever ingrained and enmeshed in each other? It's not my place to say, and it's not my place to judge. Because while, yes, many different things in Sean Combs' life were simultaneously happening all at once or could all simultaneously be true, it's also true that he produced great music, that he is a hip hop and R&B legend, that he contributed a lot to music and to business brands as a whole. He was a shrewd businessman. He was a genius creative. He was the CEO of a record label and a mentor to many. And the cold, sad reality is, despite being a Christian who says he believes in God, in the Lord, in Jesus Christ, it isn't enough to save him from himself and his own bad boy behavior. The biggest victim of Sean Combs is Sean Combs. Despite hundreds, if not thousands, of consenting adults partaking in his freak-offs and his king nights, there was some that were not consenting. But Sean Combs is the biggest enemy of Sean Combs. A lot of his behavior can be attributed to his addiction, and not to any one substance or alcohol. I would say to many. It is my own opinion that substance use disorder or misuse of substances is what Sean Combs largely had an issue with. And no, choosing to use substances or misuse substances is not an excuse for the erratic, compulsive behavior. Even if it is a symptom of, it doesn't justify or excuse the behavior. To live a righteous life, you have to choose righteous actions. To be better, to choose better, therefore to do better, and to ultimately become better. Sean Combs is a story and a lesson to be learned in how power, money, and celebrity can change a person in their mind, their ego, their emotions, and turn them into something that they may not have ever been before. Substances can turn you into something that you may have never been before. But if anybody on this planet had the money, the supports, the resources, and the ability to get help to change, it was Sean Combs. The unfortunate truth is that he chose not to utilize his supports and resources and his wealth and celebrity to his positive maximum benefit and to get clean and sober, nor to make amends and rectify his bad boy behavior. His trial is set for May 5th of 2025. We will find out then what is the fate of Sean Combs. Once again, inside of a courtroom where justice is supposed to prevail, but rarely does it ever. I really hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the earlier criminal behavior of Sean Combs and why he is incarcerated today. If you have any comments, please leave them down below because I love reading and responding to them. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. And thank you for watching my deep dive on Sean Combs and his early criminal behavior, and some of the earlier events that helped mold who he is today. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, turn on notifications, and share.